If you don't mind,
That'd be
I
all.
prefer it, but I'm gonna have to spread out here. I'm a big old fat fella. You skinny guys. You skinny guys.
Well, I don't believe that now.
I brought me an extra one.
Here,
Mr. Chairman, here's I guess, these notebooks are here for a reason.
I think they're for us.
Well, we've already seen all that, haven't we?
No.
This is just a repeat of what Donnie's given us.
James, did you decide to use your copies or you want my copies?
How are you? Great.
You watch the ball game?
You want to trade places?
Or some of it.
Dang it, Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of choke.
There ain't much in there that is new.
No, I don't think I'm going to go back.
No problem. All right, folks, if I could add everybody's attention, we are going to call the meeting to order. Today is Monday, March 24th, approximately 9:30 a.m. This is a special meeting of the Madison County Board of Elections. It is called pursuant to Article 11B, Chapter 163 of the North Carolina General Statutes. The purpose today is to conduct a hearing on the petition challenging the candidacy of a candidate for election. This meeting is subject to the meeting laws of the state of North Carolina.
Mr. Chairman, we have some people who are indicating you can't be heard. Would this help? I don't know. Maybe not.
No.
Does it need that USB port?
Don't plug this. I don't plug that.
We are not lawyers or technical geniuses, sorry. We'll work on this.
That's Tracy back too. What about that?
I think that's the new one. Sir, I think this is the old one. I thought we had updated our technology.
That thing's on.
I don't have a clue. Can you hear us? That's important.
It's hard to hear back.
Them should be working. Is he plugged up over there somewhere?
Well, they used to have a big thing they rolled out.
Check those plugs underneath your desk right there. I think they're going down there.
I can't see.
They appear to be going right down through this
Flash,
crack.
They're going somewhere.
Might have to turn that on.
You need a flashlight?
I think we'll just turn this.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, let's try that again. Sorry, folks. Today is Monday, March 24th. I'm going to call the meeting to order at this point at approximately 9:35 a.m. This is a special meeting of the Madison County Board of Elections. We are calling this meeting pursuant to Article 11B, Chapter 163 of the North Carolina General Statutes. The purpose of this hearing today is to hear a petition challenging the candidacy of the candidate for election. This meeting is open and subject to the open meeting laws of the state of North Carolina. At this time, we need to appoint someone to take minutes for the board. Our elections director is in Raleigh at a training. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to hear Dwight Smathers take the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I would like to recognize our court reporter who is here today for the purposes of this meeting. If you could, if you're speaking, speak clearly and loudly so she can hear you. And also, I would ask that everyone in attendance please be quiet, and if you have cell phones, please turn them off. All right, Dwight, if you could just make sure you transpose everything we're talking about today. All right, this time we're going to get to the main purpose of the meeting, specifically the petition for challenge of candidacy of C. John Ledford. for Sheriff of Madison County as filed by the challengers Cindy Harmon, Pete Orthman, and Timothy Malone. What I have here is Exhibit 1, Board Exhibit 1, which I will hand to the court reporter at this point. Mr. Smathers. Please enter that into evidence as Board Exhibit 1, please. Thank you.
Do you want it back? Do you need it back?
No, ma'am. All right, also at this time, pursuant to Article 11, the board has given notice of hearing to the parties involved in this. Attached, I have Board Exhibit Number 2, with certificate of service. If we could, please enter that evidence as Board Exhibit Number 2. I will go down the list of names that are attached to that exhibit to see if they are present. If they are, just please raise your hand or say present so that we can get that on the record. John Ledford?
He's here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Pete Orthman? Does not appear to be present. Cindy Harmon? Thank you, ma'am. Timothy Malone? James Harwood? Michael Gahagan? And sir, please correct me if I'm wrong here. David Wijewickrama?
Wijewickrama, sir.
Wijewickrama. Sorry about that, sir. I will try to endeavor to get that correct. Matthew Wachtel? And David White? Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, since the filing of the original petition, this board has become aware that the challengers have raised the issue of whether two members of this board, namely myself and Mr. Jerry Wallen, can provide these parties with a fair and impartial hearing. This board is in possession of a letter dated March 10th, 2014, addressed to the Council for the North Carolina State Board of Elections. I do have that letter here with me. Sir, can you verify for me that this is the same letter that you gave us? Yes, sir.
It is, sir.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we would enter this as Board Exhibit Number 3. Thank you. All right, a special meeting of the Madison County Board of Elections was held on March 14th, 2014. Counsel for the challengers was present at that meeting. The board did address the concern raised in Board Exhibit Number 3, which I just handed to the court reporter, and myself and Jerry Wallen stated, although we were not under oath, it was an open meeting, that we could provide all parties with a fair and reasonable hearing. North Carolina law does provide that all parties are entitled to a fair and impartial hearing, and whether board members have conflicts, as particularly addressed in the case of appeals for Knight versus Hicks. At this time we would like to deal with that conflict of interest that has risen. Since the motion does involve myself and Mr. Wallen, I'm going to recuse myself from being chair for the moment and turn that over to Dwight Smathers.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. At this time, the chair would recognize David Wijewickrama to verify that the motion to recuse is not directed at myself, Dwight Smathers, member of the board.
I will verify that, sir.
Okay.
As being correct.
Then, would you please verify for the board that in this letter, March the 14th, that you desired to have the board consider this issue raised in this letter that has been placed in the record on a motion to recuse two board members?
That is correct.
Are you prepared to proceed with this motion to recuse And if so, do you have evidence that you wish to present to this board?
I do. And I am.
Okay. Do you wish to call Mr. Wallen or Mr. Gibson as witnesses?
I do.
They will need to be sworn and placed under oath. And I think that's your job.
I can swear them both in at the same time. If you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in this matter with truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
This time, Mr. Wijewickrama, you may present evidence, and at some point in time, we'll allow Mr. Leek to cross-examine the witnesses if he wishes. And board members may ask questions along with that. Okay?
If I may be permitted to do so, I'd like to examine Mr. Gibson first.
It's fine.
I'll direct all my questions to him until I'm concluded, and then I'll proceed with Mr. Wallen if that's acceptable.
That'll be fine.
Mr. Gibson, Mr. Ledford will be testifying at this hearing today, and I wanted to ask you how long you've known Mr. Ledford.
Sir, probably most of my life. He was a couple of grades ahead of me.
How would you describe your relationship with him?
Well, sir, he was a couple of grades ahead of me. Most of the older folks did not pay attention to us younger folks in school. That's the way I remember it.
In the past several years, have you gotten a chance to know Mr. Ledford since you've gotten out of school?
Sir, I've probably seen Mr. Ledford 3 times in the past decade. And they've both been at public sporting events, and I saw him one time probably at the Burger Doodle driving by in a police car. That'd be the extent of that. I work in Asheville, he's been working in Raleigh. Our paths have not crossed.
What have you done for employment in the past 10 years, sir?
A couple of various different things, sir. I have 3 different jobs, actually. This is one of my part-time jobs. I've been doing this since approximately 1994 in various capacities. Been on the board the past couple of years. I enjoy that. Sometimes it's interesting to say the least. My father owns a sales and marketing company. I do assist him. We've been doing that since approximately 1985. For the past 25 years, I've been working in human services in various executive and administrative capacities. Now, in addition to that, I'm assuming you're talking about paid work.
That's fine.
Okay.
When you say you've seen Mr. Ledford 3 times in the past 10 years, you would say then he was an acquaintance, someone you recognize, a friend. How would you describe your relationship with him?
Sir, I would say probably an acquaintance.
Have you had any postings of Mr. Ledford on your Facebook or any other form of social media in the past 2 years?
In the past 2 years, sir?
Yes.
What do you mean by postings? Can you clarify that, please?
On your Facebook page, have you had any postings involving Mr. John Ledford in the past 2 years?
Sir, I've liked one of his Facebook pages. And
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Okay. Sir, I liked his Facebook page. I've also liked the current sheriff's Facebook page. If you understand how Facebook works, you have to like someone's page in order to receive information from it.
Okay.
And being involved in the community, I like to receive information from the community. I've lived here for 41 years.
How many years did you say you worked on the Board of Elections here in Madison County?
Sir, I've been doing election work here since approximately 1994. Started out as an election assistant, I've been a judge, I've done whatever I could for the voters of this county. I've been on the board for the past couple of years.
You had a chance to review the North Carolina general statutes requiring board members' conduct in the past couple of years?
I certainly have, sir. I'm fully cognizant of that statute, and I've made no public statement for general public distribution in regards to any identified candidate. And I can say that with 100% certainty.
you aware of statute 163-39, the limitations on political activity, which states, and if I may, to the board and to both council, I have provided a copy of the binders that I am reviewing in front of me. Each board member has one. Mr. Laws has one under his portfolio. You can see right there. Right now, I have turned to the section called Board Elections Member Challenges. I've gone to the back where the statutes are located. And I'm referring to statute 163-39. Applicable highlighted portion there.
Where's that? It's right
You're there.
there. Go back a little bit. Back one page. 116. Keep going back. I don't know.
Here you go. You're in the wrong section. Forgive us just a moment.
I apologize.
Go about 3 pages in. He's referencing this one right here. It's 139.
Got one more page.
Over this way.
No.
It looks like, I don't know if that's in here.
It is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We're all on the
It was-
same page.
It was before the statute.
163-39 states limitations on political activities by board members. It says no individual subject to this article shall make any written or oral statement intended for general distribution or dissemination to the public at large supporting or opposing the nomination of the election of one or more clearly identified candidates for public office. Would you say that you did post a like of Mr. Ledford on your Facebook?
Sir, I liked his page in order to have access to it. And as I said, I did the same thing with the current sheriff.
Regardless of the fact that you did it to both, it's still a violation of statute, right?
No, sir, it's not. It's not a written or oral statement for general public distribution. And it also refers to identified candidates.
Okay.
And sir, to reiterate my statement again, you have to like someone's Facebook page in order to receive information from it. I certainly would like the current sheriff's page because I want information from my county sheriff. But I do not think that anyone could construe that as a general statement for general public distribution.
Well, that'll be for the North Carolina Board of Elections in Raleigh to decide. I'm just here to question you right now.
Thank you, sir.
Have you taken part in any other social activities with Mr. Ledford in the past 2 years? Other than,
No, sir, I have not.
I was looking at, so that was behind mine. Mistake.
have you ever been the subject of a criminal investigation in the past 90 days by the current sheriff of Madison County?
Yes, sir, the conversation lasted 10 minutes.
You know what that subject matter of the investigation is?
I do, sir. I met with Michael Garrison about it. He was very professional in his conduct, and I have no issue with him at all.
I asked you if you knew what the subject matter was.
Yes, sir, I do.
What was the subject matter about?
It was an assistance call that emanated an hour after someone left my house.
Have you had any criminal charges filed against you in the past 10 years?
In the past 10 years? No, sir.
Have you had any criminal convictions in the past 10 years?
No, sir.
Have you ever been charged with a crime involving an act of fraud or dishonesty?
Sir, I wrote 2 bad checks in 2001. One was, I believe, for $11, one was for $13. I paid both of those. I believe that was in 2001. It's a while back.
That would conclude my questions for this board members.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wijewickrama. Mr. Leake, do you have any cross-examination questions for Mr. Gibson in regards to his recusal from this board in this matter? Yes.
Mr. Gibson, you understand that all that counsel is seeking is a fair hearing for he and his clients.
100%, sir.
And you understand that I likewise, for my client,
Yes, sir, I do understand that.
am seeking a fair hearing. We lawyers, when examining jurors, and you're in a role as a fact finder here, and we hear one long question the integrity of the juror on questions that appear to be going that way. Gives us some concern that might cause a tendency to say, oh my goodness, I've got to lean a little that way or I'm going to get critiqued. You don't have any tendency to do that, sir?
No, sir. Given the nature of my work over the past 2.5 decades, I've been involved in various different matters. I understand how the legal process works, how attorneys work. Y'all are just doing your due diligence for your clients. I would not be impartial one way or the other.
You want to call it strictly on what you hear here today?
That is my job, sir. That's what I get paid to do. Further, Mr. Leake, when I started doing this back in 1994, I made a commitment to the citizens of this county to uphold the Constitution of the state of North Carolina and the general statutes that we operate under. Never in my 41 years in this county has my credibility been questioned. I'm always fair and impartial.
Now, is this your third term on the board?
I believe so. It seems like about the 12th, but I think it's the 3rd.
And as I recollect from my days as chair of the State Board of Election, the first 2 times you were appointed, you were recommended by the Madison County Republican Party
Yes, sir, that's correct.
and by the chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party on both occasions.
That would be my assumption, sir. I believe that's how it works.
In fact, you were one of 3 names submitted, and you were the top name each time.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Now, of course, as you say, we being a small county, living here together, we pretty quickly learn each other's politics.
That is correct, sir.
And your politics and my politics differ.
That is true, sir.
And the fact that you and I may have differed at some point in our lives, may have had heated words at some point in our lives, is any of that going to bleed over to Mr. Levitt?
No, sir, not at all. I would say most of our words have probably been surrounding softball.
Well, as long as I was winning, it wasn't
Well, now I want to what too.
Thank you, Mr. Leake. Does any member of the board wish to ask Mr. Gibson questions in regards to this matter concerning recusal? Mr. County Attorney, do you have any need to question Mr. Gibson on this matter?
No, Mr. Snyder.
Next step, Mr. Wijewickrama, is for us to look at this challenge in regard to another member of our board, Mr. Jerry Wallen. And if you are prepared to proceed with examination of this witness, you may do so.
May I approach and talk to Mr. Walls one moment?
Yes, you may.
Question of procedure.
Mr. Leake, do you need to be part of this discussion? Okay.
I have faith in both of those gentlemen. I need to be there. They will summon you.
Yes, sir.
I will repeat what I just asked. It's a question of procedure. In speaking to the State Board of Elections, in-house counsel, I was of the impression that we had to make a request for each individual board member after their 1 year to recuse themselves. And what I just asked Mr. Laws is, do I make the request now, or do I make the request at the conclusion of all the questioning, and then also make a request to the board to have a vote separate and apart for the purpose of appeal? That was the statement, that was the inquiry that I made, and it was purely procedural.
Okay. The chair would be interested as to the outcome of that discussion. Are we heading in the right direction, Mr. Laws?
I told Mr. Wijewickrama that he wanted to ask Mr. Gibson at this point in time if he wanted to recuse himself, that it would be appropriate to do that at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Gibson, as a matter of technicality, I suppose, for the purpose of appeal, I would make a request that you recuse yourself based on the testimony that you have given. If you say yes, then I suppose it takes us into another proceeding. If you say no, then I continue for the purposes of Mr. Wallen.
Sir, I'm going to stay, and I can assure you you're going to receive a fair and impartial hearing.
Thank you.
And I think at this time, if you want to ask the board, whether the board, any member of the board chooses to make a motion, you can do that at this time.
I would now make a request that the board as a whole consider the testimony given and ask the board to make a motion to remove Mr. Gibson as a matter of protocol based on the requirements that the North Carolina State Board of Elections would set forth in their procedures.
Members of the board, you have heard this request from Mr. Wijewickrama. Is there a member of the board that would like to make a motion in regards to Mr. Gibson being recused from this hearing? Chair has given adequate time and we do not hear any motion. So Mr. Wijewickrama, you may proceed with Mr. Wallen.
Mr. Wallen, can you please state your name for the record?
Jerry Wallen.
I'll wait for those bells to ring. Mr. Wallen, are you a resident of Madison County?
Yes.
And you have been a member of the Board of Elections how many years?
I think about 6 years.
What do you do in the community, sir?
I'm retired.
Do you serve on any other boards other than this board? Do you serve on any other government board other than this board?
Yes, Council on Aging. Madison County Council on Aging.
Do you know Mr. Ledford, sir?
Yes.
How long have you known him?
Probably 20 years.
How would you describe your relationship with him?
As a friend?
You socialize with him?
No, not really.
Were you his former employee, sir?
What?
Were you his former employee?
Yes, yes.
Where were you employed, sir?
Madison County Jail.
What type of contact would you have with Mr. Ledford on a daily basis?
We would talk about every morning, about what happened, what we thought was going to happen.
Did you ever go out to eat with him or socialize with him during work hours?
Oh, yes,
Do you have a Facebook page, sir?
yes.
You have a posting on your Facebook page that supports Mr. Ledford, saying elect John Ledford for sheriff?
I do not.
Can I approach, please?
Yes, you may.
I'd like to show you what's marked as Petitioner's Exhibit Number 1. To show you what I've marked as Petitioner's Exhibit Number 1. You recognize that, sir?
Is that something that I posted, or?
Yes,
or
sir.
what?
Is that your Facebook page, sir?
Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
Can you turn to the second page, sir? Do you see on the left side a picture of John Ledford, sir?
I do.
What does it say, sir? Underneath it?
Elect John Ledford.
Okay. Mr. Wallace, once we've placed the exhibit for the witness, how do we authenticate it for placement into the record? I'll just hand it to the clerk. Back to the recorder. I'd introduce it, and then I'd like to introduce Petition Exhibit Number 1, having been identified by Mr. Wallen, and I'd ask that it be presented into the record.
Is this something that I posted, or what?
That would be on your Facebook page. Yes, sir.
In regards to your request for this to be in evidence, I think we can allow that. I would ask for just a moment to let the other board members look at this, if you don't
Please.
mind.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair.
I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, I haven't posted anything, I don't know.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't do Facebook.
I don't either. You do Facebook, explain that to me. What you talking about?
Okay, Mr. Wijewickrama, we will allow that to be in the record for this hearing.
Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Wallen, after Mr. Ledford became the chairman or the head of the BOE, who became the sheriff after he left?
Buddy Harwood.
And what did he do to your position in the jail?
He might have, I don't know,
Did he
But-
phase it out?
before I left.
Did you leave under Mr. Ledford? Did you leave under Mr. Ledford or Mr. Harwood?
Mr. Harwood.
Did you resign or did he let you go?
I resigned.
What was the reason for your resignations?
I just got tired of working at the sheriff's department.
Have you ever... May we have a moment?
Yes, you may.
If you figured out.
All right. You ready to proceed? Yes, sir.
Have you been any campaign activities for Mr. Ledford? Any political campaign activities?
No, sir, I've not campaigned for John Ledford.
Have you asked anyone to vote for Mr. John Ledford?
No, sir.
Have you been to any events where John Ledford was a candidate where he spoke?
I have years past.
What about the past year?
I can't remember. I've not been to the last couple of events, Democratic events, but I was trying to remember whether or not at our county convention last year, it was in April, I suspect. I think it was, and I was there. About all Democrats was there.
Have you taken Mr. Ledford through your community to introduce him to people to gather support for him in any way?
No, sir.
In the past year, have you gone out to dinner with Mr. Ledford or lunch with Mr. Ledford at local restaurants?
Yes, sir.
Have you spoken well of him to the folks working who served you all, saying that he's a good man, needs to be elected?
No, sir. I've probably said he's a good man, but not asked no one to vote for him.
What social or personal activities do you and Mr. Ledford participate in together?
None.
Have you on occasion had social experiences with Mr. Ledford and his wife?
I don't remember being with John Ledford and his wife at any social event. I can't remember that.
When was the last time you were in Haywood County?
Last week.
Did you see a CPA in Haywood County?
I sure did.
And did you have a discussion with her about Mr. Ledford?
Yes, she talked to me about Mr. Ledford.
Did you have a discussion with her about Mr. Ledford's residency?
No, not really. I didn't answer no questions. She wasn't done all the talking. I did not say anything to her.
Did you make a comment to Ms. Schulhofer, who's the CPA you went to see, is that correct?
I did.
Did you make a comment to Ms. Schulhofer that P.O. Box is what's important?
I did not. She might have, seemed like she asked me about a P.O. box.
Of John Ledford?
I think so, but I didn't know. I told her we was going to listen to the evidence today.
Did she prepare your tax returns, sir?
Oh, yes,
How long has she prepared your tax returns?
several years. Very good, too.
Are you aware of the North Carolina statute that I spoke about earlier with Mr. Gibson, 163-39, limitations on political activities?
I am.
Have you made any written or oral statements intended for general distribution or dissemination to the public at large, supporting or opposing the nomination or election of one or more clearly identified candidate for public office?
I have not.
Do you have any bias towards Buddy Harwood Sheriff Buddy Harwood after resigning from his office?
I do not.
Do you believe that you can be fair and impartial?
I do.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay.
Board member.
Mr. Gibson, if I may have that, I'll hand that to the recorder.
I do, sir, I do have one question.
We have a question here.
Hey, sir, maybe I'm missing this somewhere. Can you point out or highlight for me where there's a public statement on here in support or opposition to an identified candidate?
Second page, side left.
You mean the profile picture?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I may, sir, since you addressed that, if I may ask one question, is there a posting of Sheriff Harwood there?
No, sir.
On that?
Oh, you want that?
I was asking you, sir.
Me?
Yes. Is there a picture of Sheriff Harwood on that?
I can't tell. You see. Not unless that's him on that horse. I don't know.
So, humor aside, the only sheriff candidate you have on your Facebook page is Mr. Ledford, correct?
I don't know if that's him on the horse or not.
Okay. Mr. Lee, you have questions for Mr. Wallen?
Briefly, thank you, Mr. Madison. Mr. Wallen, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Gibson. Opposing counsel has asked you some questions that might cause you to feel like you can find that your integrity is questioned. And sometimes the natural reaction of the individual is, oh my goodness, I've got to be real careful lean that way or somebody's going to attack me. Now, you're going to have any feeling like that, and you're going to be able to call this straight down the middle as you see it.
Straight down the middle.
Just based upon what you hear here in this court.
Yes, sir.
Now, I don't know many people that have been around John Ledford for long or much, but at some point have not gotten mad at him about something. And I would think that's probably true of you.
That's right.
You had any experiences with him that would taint your view of him in any form, shape, or fashion?
No, sir.
Now, you and I are the same political party.
That's right.
I have to question your ability to count a little. You said almost every Democrat was at the county convention. So my county was only about 200.